Hello! Happy full moon Sagittarius! I see my goal, I achieve my goal, and then I see another. Sagittarius and Geminis, well, you should be having a good time. Anyway, today I've got the title Not No Bananas. I want to tell you a banana story. This is a silly video. The last two or three, they haven't been terribly successful, I don't think. So it made me just prefer my silly stories. Well, we all want cheering up, don't we? Me especially after this last week I've been through. I just think it's never gonna end. Of course, I'm getting older. I think there's not much time left, to finish all this. But it seems to get more and more intense. I don't know about you, but just some of the stuff I think, where has this come from? Michael says it's probably from Atlantis or Lemuria. I don't know. I know it's very, very deep and it's very distressing. So I'm doing a funny video today to cheer me up as well as you. I think I'll take these off because I'm not sure about the reflection, but I can just see a blur. That's alright. I'm good at being blurry. So I'm going to start off, although it's a story about bananas, start off with a very strange thing that happened. Do you remember that video I did about the last slice of bread some months ago? Well, I decided I fed up with going to the last slice of bread and I've got to get myself a bread maker. I used to have one. They're sort of big things, and when they are kind of big things, and I make bread in a sort of this thing, and the bread is very nice because it's homemade. It's not got additives and things in it. I hate supermarket bread, so I decided to get one of these. Not cheap, but I had a bit of money come in, so I thought I'll get myself a bread maker. Well, it arrived, well, at least it arrived somehow, and I had the note to say it had arrived. Well, where is it? So I go into my little shed, which is just outside the front door, and there it is in there. The delivery man has got permission to put things in the shed if I'm not here. Well, he put it, I don't know how he reached it, because he's not a tall chap himself. He right on the top, and it weighed a ton, so I daren't shift that. Whether I could or not, I don't know, but I know if I started to move it, it would fall on my head. So I went into a mini panic, thinking, what am I going to do? I just don't know anybody who can shift it for me. I've got the step ladders, but it's time to open the door and you've still got to lift it down. So all these practical thoughts went through my head. I thought, I've just got to get someone to do it for me. I thought of the friend of mine who got across the road, who's got a wife. I can't ask him for too many favours, although I know he would come, but he's a lorry driver and very rarely there. And there's another chap, now could I have asked him? Anyway, I did two or three. I thought, well, I could ask a complete stranger, and men are usually very helpful when ladies in distress, especially old ladies in distress. Anyway, I went to bed for a couple of nights panicking. I wanted this bread maker, I've got it, there it is, I want it, Anyway, I said, come on, God, send somebody soon. I don't know who to ask. Anyway, the next morning I woke up, there was a huge coach. This is not a big area. A huge coach parked outside my front door with a man in the driving seat. I couldn't believe it. I have seen it before. I think he comes to pick up some children from the school just a little, and he parks outside my room. He's there for half an hour or so. And I thought, I don't believe this. Dare I ask this man, this complete stranger, to get this box for me? And so I went out, knocked on his window, and I said, would you please move this box for me? Yes, he said, of course I will. And he got the box down, he brought it into my kitchen, put it on the kitchen table, and it was very, very heavy. So I was very pleased with that. I was really pleased with that. So I had to think, now what am I going to do? Because I've got to open it. You know what it's like opening these huge boxes. I haven't got proper equipment, really. So I did think about a special knife I had for cutting paper. So I went and got that. And of course you have to lift it out of the box, and I have to lift it out of the box to go somewhere else. I'm not sure I did a video on the saga trying to move a microwave, and I got my chair and put it next to the thing and put it on the chair, because I can't lift heavy things and you've got to move it. Anyway, I did eventually. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I use that phrase so often, and I did get the help. I got the thing on the thing. Well, I've looked at it, it's like a spaceship. I used to have a bread maker many, many years ago, and it made lovely, only little loaves, not big stuff, little loaves, Milo, I like rye bread. and I've not got the instruction book. Well, I don't know what half the terms mean. There's all these buttons and this and that and that. And so it's been there for 2 days. I still haven't worked out what to do with it. Although I got some flour from Sainsbury's and I got my yeast, I've got everything ready. I'm realising if I do things step by step, I don't get into a panic. Take it controlled, step by step, which is a very male brain thing, I think. Rather than rushing in and wanting to do it straight away as I used to do, I'm learning the process a bit by bit. So now I've got everything ready and I'll have another read of it tomorrow. Meanwhile, back to the bananas. This is driving me bananas. It's such a peculiar story, but this is a true story. Our local Tesco's, which is the biggest store we have here, was flooded. I drove round to get some bananas and bits that I have to have my bananas because they alkali, you see, help with the arthritis. So I'm just going to check the time. I hope it's moving along nicely, this. Oh yes, it's moving along nicely. Anyway, I got to the road closed, we had a lot of rain and it is quite near to the river, so it was flooded out. So fortunately, I'm very lucky as an elderly person. I went through the last war, not the first one, the last one. And I know what it's like to not have food on the table and to be, that's another story I might go into, but this was well, okay, we haven't got bananas, we haven't. Reminded me of a song, a wartime song, Yes We Have No Bananas, and we didn't have bananas. So I went to the local co-op, which is literally a few yards away from the Tesco's. I don't like it so much in there, it's a little bit, I find it a bit depressing to be honest, but they usually have bananas. And the shelves were empty. It was like the COVID virus, all pre-Christmas stuff, nothing on the shelves, fresh stuff, I mean, you know. And I thought, what is going on? Like, oh, I know, all the people from the Tesco locals, they're a different breed, you know, Tesco people. This is no disrespect, but they're a different type of people called the Tesco's and Sainsbury's and Waitrose and the co-op. The co-op's sort of a little bit poor man's. Sorry. You can get those things in the co-op, but it's not cheap. It's not any cheaper these days, to be honest, but they have got a good selection of stuff and they're very good at vegetarian. So I stood there looking at the shelves and there was one banana. I thought, dare I have that? Dare I have it? Will I be depriving some person of their last banana? And it wasn't a particularly healthy looking one either. And I stood there for a while and suddenly this man came up and he stood by me and we were eyeing this banana up. I said, do you want it? He said, well, he said, I could do with it. I said, oh, well, I'll let you have it. I said, I'm sure I can get some more from somewhere else another day, you know. And he was a very interesting man, an elderly man, but we had a lovely conversation which made my day. Very, very interesting man. And he had the banana. So that was that story. No, not a story. It happened again. Where was I this time? I went somewhere else. I think it was a Sainsbury's or one of the stores. Oh, it's Tesco's again, that's right. I went the following week and the shelves were empty again. The fruit shelves, the vegetable, everything was like the locusts had been. I thought, what's going on? There's no flooding, what's going on? And then I realised it was apparently the parade in town, the November the 11th Armistice Day parade. And everyone had either gone in there before the parade or afterwards and stripped everything bare. No bananas again, not one, not even one. And I thought, this is very strange. It's the second time there have been no bananas. Well, of course, this leads on to my other story about the wartime. Of course, I don't suppose that any of you will remember that, unless you're as old as me. That is saying something. So it's something to do with, we didn't have bananas. In fact, in the wartime, I'm going to tell you a little story here. We didn't have much at all. So this modern day time that we're going through, me particularly, of nothing, we didn't have supermarkets then. No supermarkets, you had to queue for everything. And when my mum said to me, when you saw a queue, you got at the end of it because it usually meant there was something you can't normally get, and it's usually bananas. Because the boats, you see, the huge ships that were bringing stuff in, they weren't coming in because they were being hit and bombed by the German whatever, submarines, whatever they were. So we weren't getting the stuff. All we could have in this country, which is a very small country, as you know, the UK, was locally grown stuff, hence the land girls. All the men were at war, So they employed young girls or middle-aged girls, whatever, called land girls, to work on the farms, because that was the only thing that kept us going. Women were in the factories making all the machinery, and the rest of them were on the fields, in the fields, doing the ploughing and doing all the man's jobs, because the men were here. It was a country run by the women. So we had no bananas, and we didn't have a lot of things. We didn't have oranges. When Christmas came, you had your stocking, you had an orange in the bottom. That was a treat. No fruit, because you see, it wasn't grown in this country, and it wasn't coming into the country. So we were really stuck without this sort of special things that you like, you know. And there was nothing like, well, I mean, I won't go into all-time matters, they're pretty dire. I think it was 1 egg a week, or you couldn't get sugar, none of the stuff that we're so used to now. And I'm thinking, all these people, they're rushing from Tesco, they rush from Tesco's, because Tesco's is flooded, rushing into the local co-op, arms full of stuff. The fear, you could feel the fear. They're frightened they're not going to get their usual rations by going to Tesco's and getting their arms full and their trolleys full. I mean, when we had the COVID thing, it was, well, I don't know whether the UK would have known about it, but full of greed, buying dozens of rolls of toilet paper. And I thought, well, I don't know where you're going to get the food from, because you're not going to do enough to eat. So this reminded me of the war years. I thought, well, I'm not going to panic. I've got a good store cupboard. I'm going to tell you about that. Keep a store cupboard. These days, keep a store cupboard. Dried stuff, especially like cereals and things, tins of stuff. I mean, my mother always had a good store cupboard, so if you couldn't get to a shop, so there was nothing to be had. You always had something to fall back on. And I'm pretty good like that, as you know, the last slice of bread. I'm pretty good at leftovers and, you know, doing without, having I've got a very small intake of food. So this is kind of a lesson in history and also a lesson in, you know, these days when everything is so uncertain. You know, we're all dealing with foreign countries, well, not Americans so much, but this country. You have to be prepared to. I always got bottles of water in, for instance, you know, and stuff that I've got lots of candles, and I've got lots of like paraffin lamps, stuff like that for lighting, if the lighting goes. And I've got one of these new gadgets which heats up the room very quickly, so if the heating goes, so you've got to look after yourself. So yes, we have no bananas. I just got some today. I love to see bananas. But they're not very. They come from different parts of the world, and some of them are pretty awful. But they seem to be sold out very quickly. And I think what it is, people are getting so hard up. In this country, we are getting a real cost of living crisis. People are so hard up with the kids and so forth. They're perhaps living on bananas. I mean, you could, you know, bananas the meal sometimes, isn't it? If you're desperate, bananas and a bit of bread, you know. So I think that's what's happening there. Stocking up on a Sunday. I just went out this Sunday, stocking up on a Sunday for the packed lunches and so forth, and living off bananas. On that note, my dear ones, I'll leave you in peace. I don't know. Every time I say, shall I do a video or not? But there comes a moment, because it's full moon. I have to do it at full moons. So take care of yourself and stock up. You can't stock up with bananas, unfortunately.